We often live like life is infinite, like we have all the time in the world to say, I love you, to forgive, to be present. But the truth is, death doesn't always come without warning. Sometimes it leaves breadcrumbs, subtle changes in sleep, unexplained weight loss, emotional detachment, a quiet shift in circulation, the final messages of the body, and even one last spark of energy before the end. These aren't just symptoms, they're signals. They're the body's way of saying, I'm nearing the end of my story. And if we're willing to listen, not with fear, but with love, we can respond not with panic, but with presence. We can stop chasing a cure when there's no cure left. We can choose comfort over control and love over logistics. We can stop waiting for the right moment and realize that the right moment is now. Maybe someone in your life is showing these signs. Maybe you've been holding your breath, unsure what's happening. Or maybe you're just trying to be ready for someone you love, or even for yourself someday. Whatever the case, let this video be a doorway, not a wall. Talk to your loved ones. Ask them what they want. Share memories while you can. Tell the truth, gently. Say the words that are hard to say. Because in the end, death isn't just a moment. It's a process, a rhythm, a transition. And while we can't stop it, we can shape how it feels, how it's remembered. So the next time you notice someone sleeping longer than usual, or pushing their plate away, or going quiet in ways you can't explain, pause. Ask yourself, what might their body be trying to say? Because in those whispers, there's wisdom. And if this video helped you hear those whispers a little more clearly, please share it. You never know who might need it right now. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever witnessed one of these signs in someone close to you? And if you'd like more videos like this, real, reflective, human, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these important conversations alive. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for loving someone enough to prepare. We'll see you in the next video. There's a quiet truth most of us carry, but rarely speak aloud. We live like we have all the time in the world, until we don't. Death in the movies is dramatic, sudden, clean. One moment you're here, the next, you're gone. But in real life, death often doesn't come crashing in like a thunderstorm. It tiptoes in like fog, slowly, softly. It starts whispering weeks, even months, before it arrives. The body knows. The mind begins to prepare. And if we listen closely, there are signs. Now, here's the haunting part. Most people miss them, not because they're blind, but because we've been conditioned to avoid the topic altogether. Death is uncomfortable. We don't want to believe it could be near, not for ourselves, and especially not for someone we love. But what if knowing these signs could help us give someone the peaceful goodbye they deserve? What if understanding the journey of death helped us live more fully? In this video, we're going to explore 6 powerful signs that the end of life may be approaching. Signs that doctors and hospice workers quietly recognize, but rarely discuss openly. Not because they want to hide them, but because our culture doesn't give space for these conversations. You're not going to hear anything mystical or spiritual here. These are real biological, emotional, and behavioral changes that have been studied across thousands of end-of-life cases. These aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to prepare you, to empower you to make important decisions before it's too late, and maybe to shift how you view life altogether. If you've ever lost someone and wondered, how did I not see it coming? This video is for you. If you're caring for someone elderly or terminally ill and you want to be present, not just medically, but emotionally and spiritually, this video is for you. And if you're brave enough to look death in the face, not as a monster, but as a mirror, then please stay until the end. Each sign builds on the last. Each one opens a window to understanding. Let's begin. Sleep is one of the first things that begins to change when life is drawing to a close. But the transformation isn't always obvious until you step back and look closely. At first, it might just seem like someone is extra tired. Maybe your father takes long afternoon naps, or your grandmother starts going to bed right after dinner. It feels harmless, maybe even normal for old age. But what if that growing fatigue is the body's first quiet signal that something deeper is happening? In many end-of-life cases, people begin sleeping 14 to 16 hours a day. They may fall asleep in the middle of conversations, meals, or even during their favorite TV shows. Their body is no longer conserving energy for movement, conversation, or daily routines. It's redirecting every bit of strength to support only the most vital organs, the heart, the lungs, and the brain. On the opposite end, some people experience something called terminal restlessness. They're exhausted, clearly, but they can't seem to sleep. They toss and turn all night. Their eyes dart around the room. They may even try to get out of bed repeatedly, agitated and confused. Why does this happen? Because the circadian rhythm, our internal biological clock, starts to lose its structure. The usual sleep-wake cycle no longer applies. Someone might be fully awake at 3 a.m., but completely drowsy at lunchtime. They may sleep all day and become alert in the quiet hours of the night. And here's the key difference. This isn't typical insomnia or sleep issues from stress or aging. These changes don't respond to medication, relaxation routines, or melatonin. They persist, often for weeks or months, without relief. Most people who experience this aren't even aware of it. It's the family members, the caregivers, the nurses who begin to notice, Mom has been in bed for almost 18 hours today, or he seems to sleep more than he's awake. If you've noticed this pattern in someone close to you, it's not a random phase. It may be the body's gentle announcement that it's preparing for something final. What can you do? Be present, sit with them, respect their new rhythm. Don't try to drag them back into routines they can't sustain. Instead, shift your energy toward creating peace in the time they're awake. Play their favorite music softly. Open the window so they can feel the breeze. Hold their hand in silence. Because even if they're sleeping more than they're speaking, your presence still matters. This shift in sleep patterns is often one of the first signs that the end is not years away, but perhaps just months. And if you recognize it early, you may gain the most precious thing of all, time. It begins subtly. Maybe they leave more food on the plate than usual. Maybe they start skipping breakfast. One day you notice their clothes seem baggier, their belt tighter on the same notch. You assume it's aging, or maybe they're just eating less because they're not as active. But in truth, sudden and unintentional weight loss is one of the clearest and most underappreciated signs that the body is preparing for death. It's called cachexia, a medical term for a condition where the body stops using nutrients effectively. Even if someone is still eating small amounts, their body can no longer process food the same way. Energy is no longer being spent on digestion, metabolism, or building muscle. It's all being rerouted to survival, the organs, the heart, the brain. And the changes are visible everywhere. The face begins to hollow, the hands look thinner, fingers bony, shoulders become angular. It's not just belly fat disappearing, it's a global change. The entire body seems to be slowly vanishing, as if it's letting go of its earthly form. What makes this so emotionally complex is that, at first, the weight loss can seem like a good thing. Grandma finally lost those extra pounds, someone might say with a chuckle. But when someone drops 10, 20, or even 30 pounds in just a month or two, without dieting, without trying, it's not improvement. It's a signal. Food no longer tastes the same. Water may taste metallic. Sweet foods taste bitter. The appetite fades. Even favorite meals lose their appeal. You might notice that their energy level dips dramatically. They tire after short conversations. A walk to the bathroom feels like a marathon. It's not just about the weight. It's about the loss of vitality. One heartbreaking example. A man in his 70s who used to love steak and potatoes suddenly turns away from every meal. His daughter tries everything, soups, smoothies, comfort food, nothing works. And he keeps saying, I'm just not hungry. It's not his fault, and it's not a phase. In most cases, this type of weight loss occurs 2 to 4 months before death. It's often irreversible. Nutritional supplements don't help. Pushing them to eat more only causes frustration and guilt for both you and them. So what can you do? Shift your focus. Instead of counting calories, cherish connection. Turn meals into moments of togetherness. Sit with them, Talk about old memories. Let them eat what they enjoy, even if it's just a spoonful of ice cream. Because by then, the food is no longer for nourishment. It's for comfort, for dignity, for love. If you've noticed someone shrinking before your eyes, not just in weight, but in spirit, it might not be aging. It might be the body saying, I'm ready to rest. This isn't something to fear, it's something to recognize. Because when you see it clearly, you stop trying to fix it and start learning how to be there in the way they truly need. There's a moment in many end-of-life journeys that catches families by surprise. It's not physical, it's not medical, it's something deeper. The person you love, the one who used to light up at family visits, who cared about the news, the bills, the grandkids, suddenly seems detached. They no longer ask about the world. They no longer argue about politics or laugh at inside jokes. They may still be physically present, but emotionally they're drifting. This isn't rudeness. It's not disinterest. And often it's not even depression. It's something that palliative care workers know all too well. It's the mind, slowly, gently, preparing to say goodbye. Psychological and emotional withdrawal is a profound shift in how a person relates to life as they near death. And for those watching, it can be painful to witness. They may start sleeping more, talking less. Their voice grows softer. Their thoughts seem far away. Sometimes they seem confused, not about the world, but about why we keep insisting they get better. They might spend long hours in silence. Or they may suddenly talk to people who are no longer alive, a spouse who passed away years ago, a sibling long gone. And they do so with calm, as if these conversations are perfectly natural. This isn't hallucination. This is often what's referred to as spiritual visioning. And while science hasn't fully explained it, it's been recorded by hospice nurses around the world for centuries. Then comes a rare but remarkable moment, terminal lucidity. Out of nowhere, someone who's been unresponsive for days becomes alert. Their eyes clear. They call your name. They say something meaningful, something unforgettable. And then they go quiet again. For many, this is the moment the soul gathers its final strength. One last surge of presence before it releases its grip on this world. If you're watching someone you love pull away emotionally, it's easy to panic. We want to bring them back, remind them of life, get them laughing again. But sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. Sit with them. Don't push conversation. Be there in stillness. Read to them, pray with them, or simply hold their hand in silence. This stage often comes 1 to 2 months before death, even when the person seems physically stable. It's not always linear. Some days are better than others, but over time, the emotional distance grows. And this space, this quiet detachment, is not a failure. It's not something to fix. It's the soul's way of turning inward, of preparing for a journey it must take alone. And your presence, gentle, respectful, loving, is the greatest gift you can give. Because in the end, it's not about waking them up. It's about walking beside them until they're ready to let go. There's a moment in the dying process when the body, quietly and without ceremony, begins to shut down what it no longer needs. It's not dramatic and it's not violent. It's strategic. It's nature at its most intentional. In the final weeks or days of life, the body starts making decisions without our permission. It begins withdrawing blood from the parts of us that don't require it for survival, focusing instead on what matters most, the heart, lungs, and brain. The result? A series of physical signs that may appear strange at first, but each one tells a story. One of the earliest is mottled skin, patches of purple or blue that appear on the feet, hands, knees, or arms. It may look like bruising or like a coldness spreading beneath the surface. This happens because circulation is slowing down. Blood is no longer reaching the farthest ends of the body. Then there's cold extremities. You may notice that their feet or hands feel icy, even when covered with blankets. Their core body, meanwhile, remains warm. Again, this is the body redirecting heat inward. Next is nail bed discoloration. Fingernails and toenails begin to turn pale, even blue. Skin may take on a waxy appearance. It's a sign that oxygen is no longer flowing efficiently. Perhaps most unsettling of all is the change in breathing. Enter Cheney-Stokes respiration, a pattern of breathing that alternates between deep, rapid breaths and shallow pauses. It may seem like they're gasping, then stopping. Families often fear these pauses mean death has occurred, but then a deep breath returns. It can be frightening to witness if you're unprepared. But here's what's essential to know. These signs are not signs of suffering. They're signs of transition. The body isn't in pain. It's adapting, conserving, reprioritizing. For caregivers and loved ones, this stage can be incredibly emotional. Watching someone's body change before your eyes feels like witnessing a quiet rebellion of nature. But it's also a moment of incredible clarity, because these signs are honest. They don't lie. They don't pretend. They tell us in the most physical way possible, the end is approaching. This is the time when medical intervention often shifts from aggressive treatment to comfort care. The goal is no longer to cure, but to ease the passage. If you see these signs, it's time to gather the family. It's time for soft words, gentle touch, and presence. And most importantly, it's time to stop fighting what can't be stopped and instead offer peace. Because the body knows, it always has. And in these final shifts, in the cooling hands, the quiet breath, the fading color, it speaks one last time. Let me go gently, I've done enough. As the end draws near, something remarkable begins to happen. The body, even in its silence, begins to speak. Not in sentences or phrases, but in subtle physical expressions. The kind that only those who are watching closely will notice. These are the final communications. And though they can be unsettling, they are deeply human and deeply meaningful. One of the first things families often notice is a change in breath. Not just the rhythm, but the sound. It's called the death rattle. It's a gurgling or rattling noise that happens when a person can no longer clear secretions from their throat. It doesn't mean they're choking. It's not painful, but it's jarring. Hearing it for the first time can be distressing, especially if you don't understand what it is. It's the body letting go of the reflexes that once protected it. The muscles in the throat are relaxing. The focus is no longer on survival, but on release. Then there's a distinct scent, one that's not related to hygiene. It's often sweet or metallic, hard to describe, but unmistakable. This is the result of chemical changes happening in the body, especially as organs begin to shut down. It's the smell of transition, not decay, but chemistry. You may also notice strange hand movements. A person may reach out, grasp at invisible objects, or pluck at the sheets. Some describe it as reaching towards something. Others believe the dying are seeing something, or someone, that we cannot. While science has yet to fully explain this, hospice workers have witnessed it across cultures and generations. A grandmother reaching for her husband's hand years after he passed. A child pointing toward a corner of the room with a calm smile. These aren't hallucinations. They're part of the mysterious, sacred space between life and death. And then, perhaps most tenderly, there's hearing. Studies suggest that hearing is the last sense to go. Even when someone is unresponsive, even when their eyes are closed and their breath is shallow, they may still hear you. This is why palliative care nurses often encourage families to speak to their loved ones until the very end. Say their name, tell them you love them, share a memory, forgive them, thank them, because even if they can't respond, they may be listening. And here's one of the most poignant realities of this stage. Many people wait. They wait for a son flying in from another state, a sister who promised she'd come, a spouse who steps into the room one last time, and then, minutes later, they pass. It's as if something in their spirit was holding on, just for that goodbye. This isn't just poetic. It's been documented again and again by hospice teams worldwide, timing the moment of death not by the deterioration of the body, but by the arrival of love. Because death, it turns out, isn't just a medical event. It's an emotional moment, a relational one. And in these final communications, the rattle, the scent, the reaching, the stillness, the body says everything it needs to. I'm still here, I'm almost gone, but I want you to know I felt you with me. It's one of the most confusing and emotionally overwhelming moments in the dying process, Just when you've come to terms with the end, when hospice has been called, farewells have been spoken, and the room has fallen quiet, the person opens their eyes, and not just opens their eyes, the one, they wake up. They sit up in bed. They smile. They ask for water or food. They call you by name. Their voice is clearer than it's been in weeks. They seem energized, alert, even joyful. You might think, they're getting better. Maybe the doctors were wrong. But this isn't recovery. It's what palliative care professionals call the rally, a sudden, unexpected burst of mental clarity and physical energy that often happens just hours or a day before death. It's deeply moving and incredibly deceptive. Families often cling to hope during this moment. After days or weeks of decline, this improvement feels like a miracle. The appetite returns, conversation flows, old stories are shared, jokes are made, but it doesn't last. Within hours, sometimes minutes, the person often slips back into unconsciousness. The body, having used its final reserves of energy, begins its final descent. Why does this happen? While the exact biology isn't fully understood, many believe it's the brain and body's final surge, a release of stored neurotransmitters, or a brief stabilization of internal chemistry. Think of it like a candle flaring up right before it goes out. But others, especially those who've witnessed it many times, describe it as something even more profound, a final gift from the dying to those they love. It's a chance to say what was left unsaid, to look into their eyes, to hear their voice one last time, and for them to hear yours. If you're fortunate enough to witness this moment, here's what matters most. Don't fill it with panic or false hope. Fill it with presence. Say the things you've been holding back. Tell them it's okay to rest. Share your love without fear. And listen, truly listen to what they want to say. Because this moment, as fleeting as it is, can become the most meaningful memory you carry forward. One woman shared how her mother, who had been silent for days, suddenly asked to sit by the window. They drank tea, laughed about childhood memories. Her mother said, "It's been a beautiful life." That night, she passed in her sleep. Was it a coincidence or was it grace? Either way, it left no words unsaid. So if this happens to you, don't miss it. The sudden burst of energy isn't a return to life. It's the final embrace of it. And in that moment, the veil between life and death is at its thinnest. Not something to fear, but something to honor. It's not the beginning of the end. It's the end beginning.